4th of July, everybody. You are all doing well, wherever you may be. If you're in the U.S. celebrating 4th of July, congratulations. I am down here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, getting ready for Silverfest 2, which is right around the corner. And yeah, great to be here and have a little bit of festivities kicked off for our 4th of July party here tonight. We have some guests who will be joining us in due time, although perhaps the best part of these 4th of July festivities, well, Nibbles is down there. You can hear him scratching around. But we will be taking some live call-ins tonight. So if anybody would like to call in, whether via phone or if you would like to be on the camera tonight, well, this is your chance. So live Silver Talk Radio coming at you on 4th of July, which is just the beginning of the things that we'll be having planned going forward. Building a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So a lot to look forward to. Even with the silver price right where it is, which if we take a quick look at the chart, you can see a very exciting open on this Sunday. 2 cents. Now it's down 4 cents. Quite a exciting pattern here as we are now 2 hours into the open, but that's okay. You can't follow the silver chart every moment of the day. Well, I guess you could, but good to have a 4th of July here. And by all means, as we wait, some of our guests will be logging in. First of all, greetings to everyone. Thank you for being here. Maybe we will play a song for Tears for Beers at some point. I know Schectman's got his guitars there. I hear he's not taking them off the shelf too often. I didn't get to hear him play when I was in Minnesota, but we'll see how it all goes tonight. And maybe we'll play some keyboards. I'd like to say thank you. I already got a couple responses for my new hiring opportunity for some musicians down here in Puerto Vallarta, which kind of exciting, the possibilities. I mean, certainly some silver-related things that could be fun, playing a lot of music. Also, to me is a very important part of Arcadia is really more than silver and all that, which is all good and fun and so forth. But what a privileged position I feel I am to be in. And I think everybody who's understanding and hearing about silver now, because really a chance to change the world in a lot, which I think is exciting. I mean, certainly we've watched the deep staters, the home and away softball teams, Democrats and Republicans do things that maybe are not ideal, but maybe that's what 4th of July means to me. Because I guess it's maybe a good time to say this. You know, certainly I'm often critical of things that happen in the US, but I don't think it's the American people. In fact, I remember when I left the US the first time, that was part of my leaving Wall Street in 2012. I was worried about how things would shake out whenever this unraveled. I was listening to a lot of Peter Schiff back then. So, I mean, you know, a certain perspective, which isn't necessarily right or not, but just was a little more concerned and ended up going to the Netherlands and Greece for, oh, do we have, looks like we will have James Bond Schectman joining me momentarily here. But yeah, anyway, the one thing I noticed when I went abroad the first time to live was that the people there still look to the United States as the land of opportunity. And a lot of the ideals that I think was what, I don't know, at least what I remember growing up, pledging the allegiance to the flag and all these ideals of treating each other well, justice, opportunity. If you apply yourself, you can make of this life whatever you want without being censored, and having that Constitution and Bill of Rights honored. And I think for the most part, the people here appreciate that. I find foreigners still, when I was in Europe, they would look to that, and many of those same ideals and okay, so maybe the government got hijacked somewhere along the way, but perhaps that's actually a normal part of the whole process. Let's see, if we're in 2021, I believe that would make this the 225th birthday of the country. And I mean, hey, I don't know exactly how all this stuff is going to shake out, but perhaps there's just a natural cycle to these things. I think I actually never read Adam Smith. I know it's not like upsetting some old timer like, oh, who's this guy who's never read Adam Smith? I've gone over the concepts, but what is it? They says about 200 years of the life cycle on one of those empires. I know 40 or 50 years, I've heard people say is historically the typical length of a fiat currency. And I mean, it's that's the part that to me is helpful, in some ways inspiring, where, all right, so in a world that if you read books or think stuff, history more than 5 or 10 seconds ago, they look at you a little weird, and that's okay. But if you do able to stand up to the crowd on that, I think it's quite exciting because you can see there are a lot of these patterns, certainly all the governmental stuff. I mean, none of these tricks are new. For the fans of the religions, you see are going back to the Roman Empire in particular. A lot of similarities there. I remember the last time I read the Bible was a couple of years ago, but actually it was maybe a year and a half ago. And just the patterns of human emotion, good versus evil. Maybe this is all part of the game, and it just comes down to where people are ready to stand up to whatever's right for them. By all means, I would advocate keeping it peaceful and so forth and all that. But certainly, as we have our soul chart up here in a fascinating 2021, I mean, you can almost in a sense say that we're watching a peaceful revolution manifest from within the silver market. Because as I think about it, really, if there's a way to opt out, I mean, I think we're seeing it happen now. Whatever Basel III is or reset or any of these things, I think that, I mean, I don't know, that's why I started doing this years ago, is that I think we're going to reach some point where the silver runs out. And I don't know that it was necessarily planned to have the events of this year. Now that they're underway, perhaps what has stood out to me the most over the past couple months is that, as I mentioned recently a couple of times, when the price goes up over 30, you have a buying pick. And when the price gets hammered, you have a, wow, look at that. That is quite exciting. I don't know what's happening on that share there, but getting multiple derivative layers there. But basically, in either case, you have people buying. I'm not quite sure how that gets reversed, but fortunately, for all the things that I didn't learn at Socialist Business School at Wharton, we have Andy Schectman logging on to the line now, bringing some street smarts. I mean, the guy survived 30 years in the precious metals industry. That is no easy task. And Andy is logging on in, well, from his silver headquarters. And I see that he is there wiping his hands together. Hopefully he can take the mute button off because sir are still muted, but happy 4th of July.
Hi,
Welcome
Chris.
on in.
Happy 4th
how are
of
you?
July, my friend. Great to see you.
Well, thank you, sir. Happy birthday to the country too. It's 225 years old, buddy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, indeed. Happy birthday to the country.
Which was born first, the U.S. or you? I know the math gets
a close second, man. A close second. I've seen
I'm
a
just
lot.
teasing.
I've seen a lot. Been around the block a long time, brother. You look good, Chris. You look really good. It's good to see you, man.
Well, Andy Schectman, I'm getting a little choppy reception. I don't know if it's on my side here, but
I think it's on
while
your side.
Getting settled in there, that could well be, but Hopefully we're coming through all right. Now we have Yarra Venne of Arcadia Economics Marketing Department logging on in for 4th of July as well. And I'm going to take a look over at the chat room where you can start putting your questions in now, because this is really your party. And I will keep an eye out for anyone who actually would like to join us on the air tonight. We're big sports radio fans, so we're going to take some calls and pipe some people in. You can be on video or via phone, so don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Yarra, hello. How are you tonight? Welcome
I'm
on in
wonderful,
to the
thank
party.
you. Happy 4th of July, Chris, Andy, and everyone.
Hi, Yarra.
Hi. So,
Yarra, is Chris a little choppy on your end?
a little bit.
Yeah, me
But-
too.
I hear you okay, Chris. You just get a little like Max Headroom every once in a while.
You gotta be old enough to remember Max.
I'm old enough to remember a lot. Not as old as you, though, Andy.
Chris just asked me what came first, the birth of the nation or me.
Did you sign the Declaration of Independence?
Yeah, I was a witness.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Well, happy 4th of July, everyone. I love celebrating independence and freedom, and silver's piece and part in that. So,
Let's see here.
And Yarra, are you going to be giving away any prizes tonight during the party?
I do have some prizes to give away tonight during the party. We've got some Got Silver stuff, we've got some silver stuff, and probably some books about silver. So if it's got silver in it, I'm probably going to give some away. And I'll stay focused on the
Okay.
too.
Well, I'm hoping to get one of those Got Silver pillows that I've seen out there. And actually, I'll pull one up.
They're
Because
so
if you
cool.
look in the below in the Yarra, can you describe where someone would find the pillow while I see if
You
I
can
get a
find
visual for
our
us behind
Arcadia
it?
store directly below the video on YouTube. It's got different pictures. If you click on anything, it'll take you to the whole store. So, and we do have a discount code for 4th of July during the Comex. So use the code GOTSILVER at checkout for 15% off. I believe you might have to have a capital G and a capital S. So get your Got Silver stuff on sale.
Yeah. Well, everyone, let's see. Chris's video feed is a little choppy. Hopefully that will clear up, or we'll figure something out. But anyway, let's take a derivative of the screen here so you can see there somewhere underneath here. Now it's not showing up, but let's try the show less button. Somewhere there, usually the store with the Got Silver merch shows up. But Yarra will be in the chat room as well, and you can help anyone who is looking for such things. Yarra, is that correct?
I can and will.
Andy, do you have any Got Silver merch yet there, buddy?
I only have a couple of coffee mugs. That's it.
Okay.
Andy, we need to get you
We'll
like
have
a
to
I need
tank
a
top
hoodie.
for
pillow on
Florida.
over your way.
I need a hoodie. I love hoodies.
You sit and
Are there
just-
any hoodies?
Text me your address, Andy. I got you.
All right, I will.
I don't have your new one yet.
I will. I love hoodies.
So Andy, what?
Yes, my friend.
Andy, you able to hear me there, buddy?
Now I do. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we have lost Andy. But
I hear him.
Andy, if you can hear me there, I'm curious on birthday 225 silver supply.
How is silver supply? Is that what he said?
Yes.
Yeah. How is silver supply? It's a good question.
Yeah. How are things looking these days?
It's a good question. Not real great. I mean, serviceable, good enough for the major companies to be able to stay in business and outfit the industry. But You know, it's on razor's edge. It's not very good. Getting Silver Eagles other than the Type 2 is very difficult at very high premiums. The Canadian Maple Leafs are getting tough to get again, and we're back out to 3 and 4 week deliveries with the RCM. You know, I've said it's been ironic. Really, the Perth Mint has been fantastic this year, after everything that's been said about them from their unallocated programs. Their physical product has been shockingly good. For the most part, we've relied upon 3 mints for the whole year: South Africa, United Kingdom, and Australia. A little bit of Austria. Those 4 mints really have been the majority of all the product that I've seen floating around, really, for the better part of the last 6 months. So we'll see what happens with the Type 2 Silver Eagles. It's very interesting, Chris. I don't know what it is, but there is an aversion to the Type 2 Gold and Silver Eagles by so many of the people out there. There are a lot of people, for whatever reason, just won't touch them. And if you can notice that by the Type 2 Silver Eagles are $1 to $2 or $3 cheaper than the Type 1s. Type 1 being anything that was minted prior to right now, to the release date, which is next week in the new Silver Eagles. But it's really an interesting phenomenon. The U.S. Mint really hasn't made any Type 1s for the better part of 3 or 4 months, and now they're issuing the Type 2s, and no one is buying them. No one wants them. They're choosing everything else but that. So supply in general is just okay, not that great. And, you know, nothing really new to talk about there, because it's what we've been talking about all year, but simply to say it's just not real good. Serviceable is the way that I would characterize it.
Yeah, and Andy, what would you say after an interesting year halfway through for the Perth Mint? I mean, you probably have better access and have seen more. Obviously, there's been a lot of events, but anything that you could add there?
You know, my dealings with them have little, if anything, to do with their unallocated accounts. My only filter into their unallocated program is from emails that I receive around the globe, probably similar to what you do, clients that are saying things similar to what rumors that we've heard, and that is all of them center around the request to go from unallocated to allocated, to move to a fabricated position and then become allocated, and clients are being told it takes many weeks, if not months, which is something that I have seen and heard from multiple sources in terms of clients, not just the stuff that John Adams is talking about and others, but from clients echoing what they've heard. But my exposure to them centers around physical delivery. And I guess if I were going to make one statement that just seems logical to me, it's that they've chosen their big wholesale business over accommodating the smaller retail business at home, and that's had some ramifications, certainly, because a lot of the complaining has to do with actually going up to the window at the Perth Mint and buying things that used to be available that evidently aren't. I can't complain with the amount of silver kangaroos that they've offered us, and they've been pretty darn good, actually. So, you know, you start to hear on one hand what John is saying and all of the other things that are being said, and certainly when you talk about you know, the work that Rob Keens has done, and I know how smart he is and how thorough he is and how fact-based he is. It's you know, it's hard to discount some of the things you hear, but my only dealings with them has been on the physical side, and they've actually done pretty darn well, which is kind of difficult to wrap your head around sometimes when you see both sides of the coin.
Andy, I have a question about the Perth Mint that has come up a couple of times when I've been talking to people, because you had mentioned that the Perth had been helpful to either the LBMA or the COMEX last year when they needed it. And then I know that Rob Keens was talking about all of the stuff that they had lent out that was on their books that they don't know who it was lent to. And I was wondering if you thought that those two numbers might be in any way connected?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think they're all playing on the same team, and if metal has to be moved from one vault to another to keep the gears moving, it wouldn't surprise me one bit at all. You're dealing with government entities, and much like if you take a look at the actions of the central banks 2 years before gold was reclassified as tier 1 on Basel III, they were all very coordinated. To think that the central bankers and the institutions within don't take care of their brethren and themselves first, I think is a mistake. I think they'll do whatever they can to keep the game going, and if that means bailing out the COMEX or sending money to metal to Perth or sending it to the London Metals Exchange, or the London Metals Exchange now saying, well, we can do a fractional interest 400-ounce gold bar for the COMEX contracts, whatever it is, I think there's a little bit of coordination going on. So it wouldn't surprise me, certainly. But whatever it is, this is the reason why that if you own physical metal, it just makes sense to have it unencumbered in your name and not worry about metal being rehypothecated or leased out, or I guess an unallocated program is great until you need it, and you need it promptly, and you find out that you can't get it. The convenience and the cost savings, I think, become secondary to the reality that you have a price representation of something and a claim on it somewhere down the road. But if that point in the road is far past the fork in the road where you need it, it's a problem. And I think that's kind of what's happening right now. So in this industry, there's one term that seems to come up more often than not, and that's penny wise and pound foolish. And in life, you get what you pay for. And I think it behooves people to pay storage expenses. It pays people to buy allocated if you're going to store it, and then none of these problems will ever arise. But again, as far as the Perth Mint is concerned, guys like Rob Keynes have my admiration and respect. They do their work, their homework. John Adams has a very persuading argument. I don't know that side of the table, just simply to say that they have delivered here in North America an awful lot of silver kangaroos and other products. At the same time, they are being accused of, or there is rumor that they're unallocated programs, that there's something wrong with them, that they are running some sort of a fractional reserve precious metals deal, that when the rubber meets the road, people won't be able to get what they think is theirs, at least in a timely fashion.
All right. Well, Andy, you actually have a triad of questions, even more that have come in since first three, but we'll take them. Michael Lideker says, question for Andy, do you see the COMEX holding price down throughout the year?
I don't know. Right now in gold, you have the lowest commercial short position we've seen in a very long time. The actual backdrop is quite bullish. Last time we saw something like this, gold rose over $250. And do I see him holding it down? Look, I don't know. I think what we saw June 28th was the Basel III reserve requirements that everyone's been talking about in Europe and Switzerland. It lit a fuse, so a very long fuse, in the respect that the banks in the UK and the US have to get in line by the end of the year. I expect great volatility. Look, I think anytime you get close to a market that takes off or a blow off, you see great volatility. And this is a very high stakes game. So ultimately, will they be able to hold it down? When you've been around the block as long as I have and have seen so many bullish backdrops only to be beaten down again by the commercial bank short selling, it becomes very hard to say definitively yes by the end of the year. But I'll simply say, whether you're talking about the numbers on COMEX or the deliveries on COMEX, or the positioning of the commitment of traders, or the shortage of supply, whatever it is you want to talk about, that's all fine and dandy. the logic is there. Eventually, the demand will overwhelm the ability to hold back the price if the world keeps accumulating gold and silver, not just from a standpoint of monetary, but there's such an expanding industrial demand for this stuff. It just becomes, I think, almost impossible to hold it back. And when you see the dwindling supplies on COMEX and the massive deliveries by the hedge funds and by the family offices and the sovereign wealth funds, ultimately the price goes higher. Is it this year? Don't know. It should have happened last year. Is it next year? It will happen. And the only way to guarantee that you're there when it does happen is to own it in the right way. Physically own it, take possession of it, and have it allocated if it's stored.
Yarra, have you figured out if the COMEX will hold it together throughout the end of the year?
I could ask my crystal ball, but my silver spidey sense doesn't feel like their what's it called? Like their grip can last much longer. So
well, look at it this way, and I don't know. Chris and I talked about this the other day, and it was amazing how they pared it down to 38 or 39 million ounces delivered. Now, I know that during the July delivery month, there are still open contracts that could stand for delivery, but with 4 or 5 days left, there was over 200 million ounces in open interest against a backdrop of 110 million ounces in registered silver. So, you know, we're as close as we've ever been. There was twice as many open contracts as there were bars to be able to deliver. That's what the Hunt brothers saw in 1980. I mean, it just seems we're really, really, really very close. And I think the total number of ounces on COMEX between registered and eligible is 350 million. That's about as low as I've ever seen it. So, you know, there's a shortage of supply starting in mining, starting and following through on COMEX and in the retail sector. So yeah, ultimately I think the supply wins out, kind of like it did with palladium, where the supply and demand just made it far too difficult for the banks to continue to push the price around. Now, will that coincide with the reserve requirements that go into effect for all of the banks by the end of the year? Perhaps. And you know, Chris, you understand options and timing and the delta and all that kind of stuff a lot better than I do. But I would think that a betting man
debatable
could do worse than taking some long call options into this market, because one of these days we're all going to wake up and be like, damn it, it was so obvious. But sometimes in life you have to have strong fingertips and you got to hang on and you got to trust your gut. If you don't, and you get traded out in these violent swings, if you buy on leverage, if you buy on margin and you get forced out, and that's what they're hoping, then you won't be able there to see this through. You just have to buy it, hold it physically, not on margin, not on leverage, and buy on the dips and trust your gut. Mathematically, logically, this will play out. And those of us who've listened to you, Chris, and for the last several years, will thank you, and we'll I think we'll be glad that they own it. The only problem with that is sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for. You know, a really high silver price, what does that mean to the dollar, to everything else around us, to the standard of living? I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen. But I'm very, very convinced on every level that silver is the buying opportunity of a generation, and I've never been more convinced of it ever.
What about retail buyers taking bars off the COMEX? With Chris or Andy?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, every single ounce that gets taken off of the marketplace is one less that is available for, look, at some point, the only way you can successfully manipulate a market is to push it in the direction it's going. And if I've talked about this a few times lately. Steve St. Angelo from SRS Rocco published a great chart not too long ago showing that over the last 20 years, almost 80% of all the silver demand has gone to industrial applications. And now over the last year and a half, that has flip-flopped with a greater percentage going to monetary. And that is an awakening for people, just like you're saying, one by one, 1 ounce at a time, draining the physical supply. And if you see massive monetary demand. At the same time, we're moving into a green and digital age where the need for silver is expanding industrially and it's depleted in nature. Last December, Keith Neumeyer told me publicly that silver was coming out of the ground at 8 to 1. He's now revised it to 7 to 1. So it just seems as though we're depleting. And then you look all around and you see SLV changing the prospectus. You know, you see the U.S. Mint saying that there's a global silver shortage. You see Ed Moy saying there's not enough silver backing all of the contracts. I mean, if you look around, you can see it. And that's why you have to trust your gut and have strong fingertips and hang on. And we will win. Those of us who can hold true to that. I'm very convinced of that. I'm very certain of that more than ever.
Well, fortunately, just in time, David Stein of Kuya Silver, we'll put him right on the spot and say, David, if you get your mute button is almost off. Now it's back on again. There you go. David, have you found all of the silver? It sounds like we're going to need it, and we're counting on you. Welcome on in. Happy 4th of July. I don't know if you're celebrating that up in Toronto tonight, but
well, very close to the border, so I can see some fireworks, and it's very nice. So happy 4th of July to everyone in the States.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you there. Welcome on into the party. And actually, David, maybe you can take round 2 at this one, because the next question for Andy. Andy, you answer this first, but we're getting requests for your stock picks. Mining stocks he owns, junior miners, anything you feel sharing. Obviously not legal financial advice, but would you like to dig into Schectman's picks?
I'd have to pull out my statement, which I'd be happy to do. So let me come back to that. I'll tell you what I have. I'll pull out my statement right now.
Reminds me of one of those quotes from the Hunt brothers when they asked him how much money he had, and he said, if you can count it, it must not be that much.
I'll find it.
See, that's what's happening with your portfolio over there, Andy, and understandable. David, would you care to share any favorite mining stock picks? Obviously, I know you like Kuya Silver. I'm a fan of them too, which you're running, but anything else in terms of mining stocks that you'd like to share with the world tonight?
Well, I'm heavily invested in Kuya. That's 99.9% of my portfolio. Yeah, the only other mining stock I think I own right now is I can't even remember the name of it. The ticker symbol is MOZ. It's a gold stock, and my broker friend kind of talked me into buying it, and it's done well.
All right, you ready? Here's what I got.
David, can we try that one more time? I heard everything you said except for the picks. It was like, and my favorite stock is, and my broker loves this.
What I said is I own one other mining stock which is and the name escapes me right now, but the ticker is MOZ or MOZ. So maybe one of the viewers will put it in chat. It's a Newfoundland gold stock, and my broker friend, who's been very supportive of Kuya, kind of convinced me to buy it, and it's done well. So it's been okay.
It's good to have that.
All righty. Well, good to have some wins.
I found it. You ready? I'll give it to you. Here's my portfolio. All right. I got Bellevue Gold, Centaurus Metals Limited, Evolution Mining, Go Gold Resources, Pan American Silver.
I believe David is a big Go Gold Resources fan.
Radius Gold, Sandstrom Gold, Silver Bull Resources, Silver Tiger, First Majestic. That's my holdings now.
Nice diversified portfolio there, Andrew. And Andy, we did have another question that I'm excited to hear the answer, even if I already know it. But do we have any silver specials tonight on the 4th of July. Before you get to that, I would like to say thank you to everyone in the chat who helped correct me that it is the 245th birthday of the country, not the 225th, as I incorrectly asserted earlier before. And so with that said, Andy, on the 245th birthday, do we have a super special?
We do.
Something red hot, perhaps.
We do. We have the July 4th Drain the Comex Silver Special. We have 1,000-ounce silver bars, just in the name of draining the Comex. $1.69 over spot delivered. And we are offering for people who want to have them stored in any of our Brinks facilities, whether they be Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Miami, New York, Los Angeles, or Salt Lake City, 90 days free storage, if that's what they want to do, or we'll ship it for free. So, you know, just in the spirit of trying to take a chip out of Comex, $1.69 over spot on 1,000-ounce silver bars.
And I'm writing the address for Arcadia at
Alrighty.
Miles Franklin in the chat, if for anyone who wants that.
Now, Andy, you know our good friend Dave Fuller, big presence on the show here, hitter in the industry, as they say. He often gets upset because, you know, he distinguishes a lot between there's retail and industrial, which I mean, I agree with on one hand. Maybe my overall perspective a little different, but perhaps could you talk about the difference there? And then it looks like we would be competing from the mother source with the July 4th Red Hot Drain the Comex Silver Special. But could you touch on those? Is it all coming from the same source, or he feels it's that retail is going to get squeezed off, but not industrial? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I agree that too. I think that's fairly accurate, and I would take it a step further. I think the industrial will certainly come before retail will, but look at it from the respect that what other asset, what other commodity has demand bracketing it on either side, where you have both industrial and the monetary demand, and that's what makes silver so unique. But if you take it a step further and say the retail demand coming from a little more of a sophisticated standpoint, instead of physical gold bars and coins being delivered to the people watching this show, what if it's the big hedge funds and sovereign wealth funds who say they smell blood in the water? And you know, at some point, the question has to be asked, who's been taking all of the silver off of Comex this year, 60, 70, 80 million ounces, pulling it out of the building? Is that the industrials? Well, is that Samsung or Apple or Tesla or what have you? And if that begins to become a realization that silver indeed is depleting, it's becoming hard to get, the price is starting to rise, the industrials are pulling metal off of the exchange, and now all of a sudden you look at assets that are at all-time highs, yet silver is just barely above its double 1980 peak of, you know, half of it, of $50, or just barely above half of that. And I think the investor, the big money investor, looking for value in a world where it's hard to find it, will start to jump on board or jump in with both feet. And now you have a battle going on between the industrials who are scrambling to secure product for their, or silver for their end use product, and the big time hedge funds and big money investors who realize that this is a powder keg waiting to happen when you view the supply, you view the demand, and really in an expanding industrial application or applications for silver, I just see a battle forming, really a big one, between the industrials and the monetary or the investors. And there are no other assets that come to mind where you can say this. You know, something like copper to go to the moon, but you know, look, copper is mostly industrial. Gold is mostly monetary. Silver's both. And in looking at Steve St. Angelo's chart where he shows a flip-flopping, you know, this is coming true where you're seeing people all across the globe accumulating silver. That's different. It's never been like that, where you can see massive demand that is actually outpacing the industrial demand. That's what makes these types of what ifs plausible, whereby after the last 20 years, the demand for industrial or for physical silver monetarily is way higher than it's ever been. And that's setting the stage for a battle. So I guess we'll have to see how it plays out.
Well, David Stein, excuse me. The next question for you, sir, based on what Andy just said, on the Silver Institute numbers that show about $1 billion a year in supply, 7 to 800 going to industrial. So if you help silver investors simulate the experience of getting beaten over the head with a brick, they got from 2011 until, you know, most of the recent years, and you keep the demand very low, then you can actually hold this Ponzi scheme together while you talk about tapering, but instead initiate a hyperinflation campaign. But my question to you is that, was it a random coincidence that once the investment demand kicked up over that gap supply shortfall last year, that the price jumps $10, and then it looks like all heck has broken loose yet again? I mean, in the end, if there's 200 or 300 left over after industry takes it, and investment demand is greater than 200 or 300, is that about as simple as we can make that, whether we actually know those numbers or not, or you're seeing it from the supply side? What can you say there, sir?
I think that you're on the right track, Chris. You know, if the investment demand is more than that gap, then the price needs to go up. You're gonna have a big deficit, and it should push the price up, because the industrial demand is pretty steady. It grows at a low or a single digit rate every year on average, and there's basically thousands of different applications where silver is used. So it's not one major one that's going in and out of favor. And so it's pretty steady, and it's really the investment demand that kind of goes like this, depending on what's going on in the world. And right now, the demand in 2021 has been very strong, and I think with the macroeconomic conditions, that should continue, and eventually that should make an impact. Should make a much bigger impact. And look, again, we've seen it before. We don't have to imagine conspiracy theories or anything like that. In this particular instance of supply and demand, we've seen situations where there's huge demand for silver and the price goes up, and it can go up a lot, as we saw in 2010, 2011, and I think that's where we're going again.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess the nice part is that there was one person that said years in advance, before it happened, not after, he said, watch out, everybody, because when silver breaks through 21, watch out. And Bill Murphy is in the process of logging in. I was hoping I was going to time that seamlessly, although he has not yet made it. I've clicked to let Silver Bill Murphy, who is somewhere in the digital green room, so legends of the industry joining us, and there he is. All right, Silver Bill Murphy, you're still on mute, but welcome on in, sir. Hopefully you can hear me, and we'll get you situated. Bill, you still, if there's you look at the bottom left, there's a button that hopefully says unmute. Maybe I can do that for you here. Let's see, ask to unmute. We'll try that, but there we go. Bill, are you with us there?
Yeah, I am. Good. Happy 4th again, everybody.
Well, happy 4th of July to you, Bill. How are you tonight, Silver Bill?
Good. Just got back. Just want to check in for a bit. Wish everybody the best. Thanks for your effort. And you know, it's not exactly the easiest of times, so it's good to see some good people.
Yeah, well, likewise. And I don't know if you heard me bragging about you while you were logging on in there.
Yeah, I did, but if
because-
I may, I've been looking for silver to go for 100 for years. Years.
Well, there's still a little time on the clock, sir. And I might add that you told people, in fact, I can remember this one night, that must have been 2017. I was still back in Golden. I was walking around listening to a podcast. I just remember as you were talking about silver when it breaks through 21. And sure enough, when it did, it exploded through, which could be a random coincidence. It was the year where the demand numbers finally blew through that investment supply gap. And I guess that's what I've been thinking about, where sure, it makes sense you can stuff the price lower when there's not people actually taking metal out. But now that there are, that would seemingly be a problem. And I'm curious what Silver Bill thinks on that one.
Well, I'd like to know from the other guys because I'm dumbfounded because this is the most bullish time for gold and silver history. Of course, I know who's doing it and why. But for me, the cash markets stink. And have been stink all year because they can't overcome this paper selling by the bad guys. I don't have the answer. I can't explain it to anybody. But somehow, maybe one of the guys can. How do they keep coming up with enough physical silver and gold to meet this bombing rate that we've had every day but 10 days the entire year? It never goes away. I don't get it.
Well, perhaps maybe I can take an educated guess at part of that where, I mean, you could see it with your own eyes. Perhaps one could extrapolate or, hear the things that the birds chirp around when they're flying in those trees. Or you could just listen to Rostin Behnam talk about how the price was overtly tamped down. I think for good reason, because I think the world got a glimpse of what's about to happen when the price does break through 30. Maybe this will come out how it does, but in a sense, it's almost like when it breaks 30, it may as well break 50 is at least, I'm not saying that's how it will happen, but I mean, I think that you went from nobody talking about silver to having Jeff Curry become a celebrity name, at least in my household. And I mean, JM was on CNBC the day silver broke $30 for hours. They have JM on CNBC, and nothing against JM Bullion, just that they never talked silver. Wall Street Journal was writing articles about silver manipulation. And I get the feeling that it's very clear to anyone on the inside that if the price gets over $30, a lot of people are really going to pile in then. So, Bill, you look a little frozen there, but if you can hear me, let me know if you have any thoughts on that.
I can hear you loud and clear, but I've been thinking this way forever, and I've been wrong. And nobody will explain to me how these creeps, the JP Morgan crowd, the central banks, in the most bullish time in gold silver history, continue to get away with what they're doing. I do not understand it. And I respectfully would like to have somebody explain to me how they keep doing it. It's not like it's been a week or two or a month. It's been all year, and specifically since the beginning of August of last year. We're going to be a year going through the same stuff. Now, all my money's in gold and silver. I want it to go more than anybody. I don't get it. I've been so wrong. Hello?
Well, I don't know about that. One could say you were wrong until silver broke through $21, and then it broke through $21, and
we're back. My
you were right. I think there's just
Chris, I talk about 26 silver. A month goes by, 26. Another month goes by, 26. Nothing changes. As I said, I'm not trying to have any. I'm the most bullish guy going. Still am. I don't understand how they keep getting away with it, and I'd love to learn.
Yeah, well, that's why we got the show here, and we talk about the CFTC. And all right, so we realize we're all in on it. these things pop when they do. Yarra, would you like to chime in and help Silver Bill feel a little better about the price action going into this exciting second half of 2021?
I would. First of all, I wanted to say hi, Silver Bill, and happy 4th of July. And it's always a pleasure to see you. And especially, I understand your frustration. I've only been in silver a short time, but I obviously got a quick education and got to be a part of making the book and reading, what you pioneered as far as, putting information out there. As a person who came into silver from more of the healing and metaphysical world, I don't believe that time is really as we've been led to believe. So I know sometimes it can feel like things are taking too long, but I don't know that
You're too young and pretty. That's not the way when you get to be 75 years old. I don't care if it happens 10 years from now. I want to enjoy it now. That's my problem. But that's where we come from. I said that 5 years ago. Oh, no. I said that 10 years ago. And here we are. Again, I'm not any less bullish. I just don't understand it.
Well, I think one of the cool things
who in the audience thinks that Silver Bill is going to get to enjoy it in 10 years from now?
Sorry to cut you off, Chris. We've got a tiny delay. What was that?
I was asking who in the chat room thinks that Silver Bill will get to see it much sooner than 10 years from now. Andy Schectman, how long do you think it's going to take? What's your over-under?
Bill, first of all, you've been saying it for a lot longer than 10 years, brother. I think it's more like 20 years. Look, we've never been this close. And it's easy to say that, and the people out there have heard us all say that forever. And, I'll just simply say this. When I look back at all the things we've talked about as a company, and we've been supporting GATA and La Metropole Cafe and Bill and Chris for as long as I can remember. It was in the 90s, I think, late 90s or early 2000 when we started doing it. And we all owe Bill and Chris Powell a debt of gratitude, all of us who have held in there. And there have been many times when you gave us the conviction to continue to do so. When does it happen? I don't know. All of the things we've talked about over the last 31 years, most have come true because they're rooted in mathematics and economics, never when we thought, oftentimes years later. And I think you're not wrong. And it's becoming too in your face for, I think for this to continue much longer. It used to be these things you had to dig very deep and they were overt, and very few people noticed it because very few people noticed precious metals, but more and more people are noticing it. They're noticing what's happening with currencies and with alternatives. And I don't think you can hide this much longer. It reeks of desperation. And so, when you see the numbers on COMEX with open interest dwarfing registered and with 5 days left in trading, when you see as much silver as we see being backdoored out of the SLV, they're papering everything over, but the big money is pulling the silver out the physical, whether it be the commercial banks trading SLV or the exchange for physical or the deliveries on the COMEX. The biggest money is front running what's coming. And so, people can listen to us and say, yeah, I've heard it before. And I don't blame them. I feel the same way you do, Bill. I get it. Yet for the first time in a long, long time, the last 18 months has me convinced that we've been right all along. Just there is a very powerful power that is powers that be have been able to keep the ball up in the air longer than any of us would have anticipated. So what used to be done for reasons to blur the value of the dollar and its relationship to interest rates and all the markets, I think has gone to one of repositioning ultimately. And the biggest money is not trying to manipulate the market, I think, to get wealthy, although the commercial banks by byproduct do. I think the big money is doing it to reposition for what's coming next. Honest to God, I believe that. And so they're holding the paper price down while at the same time draining COMEX, draining the ETFs, draining the London Metals Exchange, and subsidizing their purchases until there just isn't anyone that is willing to deliver at these stupid prices. And that's the part where I feel you, Bill, where it just is ridiculous that there is any willingness to deliver at these prices. So when does it happen? I don't know. Probably longer than most of us would like it to, but sooner than a lot of people would believe. So I think we're closer than we've ever been.
Well, I hope you're right, because I mean, I want it more than anybody, and you've been so good for so long, and like the other guys on the call, and Laura, and like, it's just, this is the most frustrated I've ever been in 50 years of dealing with the market, because we've had some bad times, but never when the fundamentals were so bullish. And it's so obvious what they do. They have bombed the market. I call it the gold cartel every day this year, except 5 or 10. I mean, every single day, at least once. And to look at it, like I say, it's so obvious. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And yes, silver's going to go bonkers. And when you're right, when it goes, it's just going to be unbelievable. But again, I think the weeks go by, the days go by. It's just like, I'm just trying to figure it out for my people so I can explain it to them.
Well, Andy, maybe you can cheer up Silver Bill a little bit by telling him what you've been doing in your spare time this week, buddy. Have you been practice reading anything?
Yes, I have.
That's a plaster the YouTube circuit with any particular sort of advertisement, maybe?
Yes, YouTube ads that we're working on, Bill. We're fighting the fight with you. We're right there with you, and anything that we can do to help further your cause, whether it be with advertisements or donations or recognition, we're right there with you, Bill. And it's because of you that a lot of us have.
Yeah, I think we need to send our man some silver. I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we got to send the guy some silver to get a smile on his face.
Tell you what,
I'm putting in a 10-ounce bar. Andy, you going to double down that one with me?
I'd also like to invite
everyone. We could just
to
send Bill so much silver, like he won't have any space in his living room. He'll have to be climbing over a stack when the price explodes.
I got an interesting story. It's off the record, but I used to be good friends with Daniela Cambone of Kitco. And because obviously she's a great looking girl. She was so nice and friendly. See her at the New Orleans conference, interviewed all the time on that kind of thing. But and I was really good friends with Bart Kittner 20 years ago when we first started. One of the first people he interviewed, and God was just getting going, and we went out to dinner together a few times up at Vancouver. So the other day I got the idea, like I'm trying to, what can I do to be constructive? Like Andy's doing all the time. Let me be constructive. So I figured I got on Bart and said, look, Bart, you got this great looking new girl. She's beautiful. She's intellectual. She's very smart. I was good friends with Danielle. She just appeared on me. How about getting me an interview with her out of London or wherever she lives, because she's got an English accent. And so I could get, some coverage. I said, you give it to this creep, Jeff Christian, all the time. I mean, I unleashed, and I won't get into details, but he was talking about what Chris Powell put out about his lawsuit, the Kitco thing, and it was in the Montreal paper, a Gazette or something. He called it the National Enquirer. Anyway, I'll go back and forth for now for 3 days. I'm not getting any place. But Chris just recently, Powell put out what he had to say and what they had to say. But he didn't deny anything. He just said it was all a hoax. And I don't even know what to say anymore. I mean, it was like mind-boggling. He didn't really deny anything. He said, no, this is all false. He just said the story was all false. Anyway, I'm just letting you all know this off the record because I'm not going to mention it, but so much for my trying to get on Kitco after 20 years.
Well, Bill, I'll be happy to interview you on Arcadia, and so you can get interviewed by a cute chick who can ask questions. So.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm just passing that along out of interest because I was just shocked at how aggressive he was in demanding that Chris Powell, my colleague at Yarra, take down what Chris just reprinted what was in the press. Anyway, enough of that, but I just thought it's an interesting because I've been going through it for 3 days now.
If I could pipe in for
Well,
a minute to everyone and ask you to donate at gata.org. Support Bill and Chris and their awesome work and help. I know I'll be happy when silver goes, but I'll be happy more for you, Bill, because I know how long you've been waiting. So,
Well, thank you very much. And you look very pretty, by the way.
well, thank you.
Well, Bill, and I might add that largely because of the foundation that you and Chris paved, and here's the GATA website. If you want to go click how to help, you can do so right there. You know, for everyone who's saying this past week, what's the difference? You know, we've heard all this before, it's manipulated. I mean, I don't know. It's like before a volcano goes off, you know, you can sit there and it looks the same, but underneath the surface, things are happening. And I don't know, 10 years ago, there wasn't Wall Street silver. Even a year ago, I mean, a couple of years ago, I wasn't doing the show or no one was listening back then. You know, Rob Keents wasn't doing it. There's all these people who know about it. It's interesting. Now I find even I get to talk to a lot of the mining companies. They're all aware of it. And I think, you know, it's like right now, whatever happens to the price tomorrow, like it means nothing to me. It has to go to some sort of reset. Maybe there's a planned reset. I personally think that's the case, but maybe they just go until they run out of metal. I mean, the numbers are simple, and I don't know if someone else, I mean, either lying more about the numbers even than what we're seeing on Silver Institute, or else if there's 300 left over after industry uses it and people are trying to buy 500, you're running into a problem. They're all saying, I mean, now they're rolling out Basel III, and I get people want it to be done sooner, but anyway, I just say, Bill, you hang in there, brother, and all the young bucks like us will keep the Andy Schectman, Miles Franklin commercials blasting throughout the YouTube so that people can know about the virtues of silver, and kind of like David Stein has been out digging in the fields for. And David, what would you say to people? I'm sure you heard from a lot of investors this week that were not in the best mood, but what do you tell them? What do you say? What makes you stay in this? I mean, why sell Kuyu Silver and go buy Tesla shares this week?
Well, look, it's a bit different, you know, being on the mining side. Like we're all, you know, we all have the same interests in the price going up, because obviously that makes a huge difference to our whole business model and you know, and just the fundamentals of our business. There's nothing we can do, you know, whether it be drilling holes or, you know, lowering our costs at the mine. There's nothing more impactful than the price of silver going up, and that's, you know, out of our control, right? And so that's something that we deal with, you know, every day as a mining company. But you know, I kind of, you know, I guess have the you know, maybe it's a blessing that I can, you know, think long term, and I don't disagree with anything that's been said about the fundamentals being great right now. But you know, there have been other things that, you know, have been distracting investors, like cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. So that's billions of dollars that could have been going into 10 years ago, might have been going into precious metals, for example. I mean, so the markets are, you know, we like to look back in history, but markets do change, and we have to sort of keep that in mind. So you know, I still think, you know, things are setting up, you know, very nicely for a big long-term bull market of many, many years, much like what we saw in the, you know, the first decade of the century in the 2000s. And that's really, you know, that's really what I'm sort of looking at. I don't get too worried about the price day to day. And as long as I'm not seeing any big changes in the fundamentals, which I have not seen, then I think we're in good shape.
Hey, David, I have a question for you, and it's one that I'm asked all the time. You know that what Keith Neumeyer has done, and you know what Endeavor Silver has done by withholding production from the industry. Why isn't this done on more of a coordinated basis with the miners? Why is it that it seems that you don't hear much protesting from the miners about what happens to the price? The protesting comes from all of us. Keith Neumeyer seems to be one of the few, if only of any, of the CEOs that I ever hear publicly say something about what appears to be great manipulation in the product that they're mining. Isn't it in everyone's vested interest to say something, or is it just such a cash intensive business that you just have to get paid at the end of the day and don't have the ability to hold production back? Or just go direct to the public and direct to the end user and just skip the COMEX altogether? Why can't these things be done on a coordinated basis? Just speaking from 10,000 feet here, hypothetically.
Well, you sort of mentioned a bunch of different things there, so I'll try and deal with them all. But in terms of coordination, I think what it comes down to is there are really very few primary silver mining companies. First Majestic has been the biggest one for quite a while. And then honestly, it gets really small after that. Even the next biggest ones are relatively puny in the size of the overall market. So, I'm fully supportive. And look, we're not big enough, and we're not, we don't have, Kuya doesn't have any production yet today. We're developing a mine in Peru. That's what we're doing. What I have said before, and I would say again, is look, if we were in a position where, the mine was going, we were making tons of cash flow from it, then putting silver on your balance sheet makes sense. And I think that's also a little different than just withholding it for a quarter and trying to time the market. I mean, actually putting it on as sort of a cash equivalent on your balance sheet, which, I believe Keith Neumeyer's done in the past with First Majestic. I know Rob McEwen did it with Goldcorp about 20 years ago in the early 2000s when he was starting Goldcorp. So it's been done, but it's pretty rare for a company to be in that good financial shape that you can basically just be able to do that. Now, if we get into a bit more of a sustained bull market, I think you will actually see more of that. So that's a factor that will feed on itself. Higher prices, you'll get more companies that will be sort of willing to hold essentially hold supply back by putting silver on their balance sheet. And I think that's how you would do it. Just by owning silver as a company. So anyway, so I hope that's answered. The problem with the coordination, Andy, and I'm not going to say it can't happen. And again, I am happy, and I've tried to work with, other silver mining CEOs in the past, but it's, we all have our own businesses to run. And so it's not as easy as it sounds, but when you actually look at the silver market, a huge amount of silver is produced as a byproduct. It's somewhere between 60 to 70% of the market, and getting those guys who, let's say, where gold or zinc or, copper is their main product, to sort of participate in a basically a production management scheme is going to be difficult. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But I think what that means for investors is, just, support the companies that are bullish on the price and are going to support the market. And I think the price can still do well. We don't need an OPEC of silver for the silver price to go to $100.
Well, maybe just keep them all from forward.
As Kristen Rowe the Great says, I would hold until banks fold. That's been my personal philosophy as well. So, well, Kristen, let's get her a.
I was going to say, Kristen, you get a prize. I will message you in the chat.
Guys, I can't hang around too much longer. I just wanted to check in and say hello to you all and congratulate you, Chris, for all your efforts and all the guys, and of course, Andy's been
wait.
around there forever. I just want to touch base and
Love you, Bill.
I want to salute you guys, all of you, and I appreciate it, Laura, and happy 4th, and I hope the next time we get together, it's like, we're on our way versus woulda, coulda, shoulda. I keep looking for it. It's going to happen. What you guys are saying is so right on the money. I wish you all the best. Have a good 4th.
Bill, we love you, buddy.
Love you,
All right,
Bill.
Silver Bill, you hang in there, and
Party at Silverfest.
Andy Schectman, buy Silver Now commercials out there on YouTube ASAP to spread the word of the immense value that at least I unofficially think is available there, and that's why I sink my funds into silver related assets and maybe spend my spare time thinking about ways to build a synthetic silver call option where you've actually hedged out the time premium. I can't wait to tell you more about it. But, and Andy Schectman, he was so impressed by that one, he logged off. David, I have a trick question for you if you want to take a crack at this one.
Absolutely.
Skipper's back on. Yarra, you can play along too. Anyone in the audience, feel free to pipe your guess in here. And by the way, I'll keep it in the chat if anyone would like to log on video or call in and ask their question. We could try that tonight. And America's Soap, I see your question. I will get to that one next. First, the trick question here. If the price of silver went to $40 or $50, would that increase or decrease the available supply of silver? David, would you like to go first?
Sorry, repeat the question again, Chris, so I can think about it.
Let's say silver goes up to $40 because, a lot of people see these commercials saying, buy silver. Now, with Andy Schectman of Miles Franklin getting deals and beating online prices across the nations, both in the U.S. and often Canada as well, Andy, we'll have to talk Mexico in a moment, but let's say that, this buying continues, and when you have more people trying to buy than metal exists available in the supply, if the price were to go to $40 or $50, do you think that would increase or decrease the supply of available metal? David Stein, you can take it away first, please.
Well, that is kind of a trick question because, some of the supply comes from, I guess, net investment demand. And if the price is going higher, then people aren't selling, right? So that actually reduces the supply. People are buying. There might be a little bit more supply come on, but I don't think it would be a huge factor. It's really slow. The mining industry is really, really slow to react to price changes. It takes years to build mines or to expand production from an existing mine. So anyway, I guess that's my answer.
All righty. And by the way, Yarra, can we get a prize to Common Sense who nailed this one?
Yeah.
Although, Andy, would you like to take a comment on that first?
Yeah, I guess, there's a certain segment of people who've been waiting for a long time to see the price rise. And, everyone's got this $50 number in their head. And I think you'd see some selling. What happens after that? People are also remembering a $50 price that was touched briefly twice and then retreated like it ran into a bush of poison ivy. So I think that there would be a certain amount of selling. There might be some product that loosened up. Yeah.
What was that one? That was a new one you threw in there.
Yeah,
what
that was a new one. I know.
Poison ivy bush. Give me that again, please.
But that was what it's like. I think that the reason that most people aren't successful in investing is that they buy after the trend has been established. And you can't do that, but that's the way the majority works. So if we were to see a sustained rally and blow through these previous numbers, I think we would see very quickly supply dry up again. Just because that there's so few people in mass on a large scale. When we talk about the average person on the street, they still have no clue. If it's this hard to get it right now, what happens when you see a far greater involvement in the mainstream. So at first there would be a little bit of supply thrown on the industry, but in the end, no, I don't think it has much difference at all. I don't think it makes a dent.
Yarra, your take on the
Right back.
supply-demand imbalance on this 4th of July?
Well, my initial instinct was decrease. And I know we've talked to a lot of miners, and David brought it up, but about how long it takes to like bring a mine back on, no less start a new one. So if the price goes up and the demand goes up, I think there's going to be far less silver available, which will in theory drive the price up more, was the way I took it from my freshman econ perspective. Ooh, are you frozen?
Yeah, well, perhaps if anyone can figure out what conditions have to occur for people to stop buying silver, let me know, because otherwise I've been piling it on. I was option shopping like the hungry kid at the buffet last week, but enough of that chit chat. America's soap. Let's clean this man up here. Question: why would Vlad Putin or Obrador Mexico sell his country's silver to the U.S. for 26 USD fiat when he knows it's manipulated?
I didn't know Vladimir Putin was selling silver to the United States en masse. You could argue that's why palladium is trading where it is, because they control the majority of the supply. And the COMEX chose not to mess with it anymore, or the traders did, because I think they realized getting supply in that environment wasn't a guarantee any longer. So ultimately, you could argue that silver is palladium on steroids. And when the silver supply globally, when it becomes obvious that there just isn't any more silver to be sold at these stupid prices, it'll be set free just like palladium was and has been. And so I'm very hopeful for that. But I don't think that they can continue to hold back the prices when you're seeing the amount of global demand. And we talk a lot about also the Chinese Belt Road and Rail Initiative. You're connecting 70% of human population in this endeavor, and the need for silver in a digital aspect on top of the new green agenda globally, it's real. So you have expanding uses for silver that are coming on the scene right now, on top of a massively accentuated investment demand. There isn't a better backdrop on top of a depleted asset. And David's saying only 30% of the 800 million ounces mined comes from primary miners. So that means 560 million ounces come from byproduct mining. And so what that tells me is that if only 30% comes from primary miners, that means that there isn't enough silver big deposits out there to warrant other companies taking a bigger position in only silver. So depleted asset with growing use case, both monetarily and industrially. And an awakening globally to it. You couldn't ask for a better backdrop. The only problem with gold and silver is like I've said before, you feel like the little boy who's cried wolf. I do. I felt that way for a long time, and honestly, Chris, and I say this with pure sincerity, your interview with Bart Chilton revitalized, reinvigorated my belief in all of this. That when you get that kind of information, validating everything that Bill and Chris have said, validating everything I've believed, I know that in the end, and with that in mind, seeing all of that we're seeing right now with the deliveries off the COMEX and the ETFs and the reclassification of gold and all of the things that are happening combined, that was one of the biggest events in my career. And I say that on just about every interview that I give. You couldn't have asked for greater validation that ultimately we're going to be right. And I think we will. So you just got to hang on, strong fingertips.
Can I just jump in on the sorry, Chris. Okay, I'm just going to go in. I'm just going to
Go
speak.
ahead.
So just jumping on the political thing with the last question. Just one thing I thought I would point out that's kind of interesting is that Russia and China both. I know the question didn't address China, but Russia and China both have central precious metals buying agencies, and they actually, if you mine in those countries, you have to sell your product to the government, and they pay you spot price. So there's no disadvantage to doing that if you're a miner, but you have to sell it through the government, and then they obviously can then sell it on or just hoard it. And so when you've been seeing the official numbers for gold in particular go up and up and up for China and Russia, they don't even have to go out and buy it. They're buying it, but they're buying it from the mining that's already happening in the country. So instead of those gold ounces, then going overseas or wherever, they're just essentially staying in the country and building up their gold reserves. And I guess I wonder if there comes a time when we see something like that for silver. I think you can make a strong case that silver, is a strategic metal, should be hoarded by governments. But we haven't seen that yet, to my knowledge.
Chris, I think
Can't hear you, Chris.
Well, sorry about that. Andy, you mentioned with the Bart Chilton thing that you thought that was pretty shocking, that basically a CFTC commissioner would confirm that the silver market was entirely rigged and describe it in such detail as he did. But I'm curious, as an industry veteran, how would you stack that up with some other CFTC footage we got this year, including?
And in many respects, the resiliency and the market structure of the futures market really were able to tamp down what could have been a much worse situation in the silver market.
I mean, I know it's tough competition, but those are two wild different ends of the spectrum. But the
difference
how do you compare such fine statements?
The difference is Bart Chilton seemed like a man who wanted to get something off his chest, and this guy just seems like an idiot who said something he shouldn't have said. That to me is the difference. Is that one was great sincerity and almost being remissful, and the other one is just naive and didn't think about what he was saying. Kind of similar to what Jeffrey Curry did, just talking over his head versus, I don't know if Bart Chilton knew he was ill or he was going to die or it just happened or there was something more nefarious. I don't know that, but the fact that he died shortly after your interview only leads to speculation. However, it seemed to me in watching that and listening to it, it was a man who wanted to get it off his chest, regardless of his own mortality or knowing of his own mortality. This is a guy that wanted to clear his conscience. And I almost sensed the same thing with Ed Moy. When you get the former head of the U.S. Mint coming out and basically saying that the banks are holding down the price and that there aren't enough bars behind the contracts issued. I mean, you don't hear stuff like that coming from a U.S. Mint official or a former CFTC governor. These are admissions of guilt, almost like clearing one's conscience, versus this guy with his arrogance, just saying something stupid and probably saying after the fact, damn it, why did I say that? So that's how I would see it being different.
Well, Skipper, I'll tell you what, if you think that's wild, you should hear some of the things I come across that I can't really mention on the show for various reasons, but I maintain my belief that we discussed earlier in that first week of February when I thought it broke then. And actually for the same reasons we've talked about tonight, because again, if the price goes over $30, you have a buying panic. And then when it got hammered lower, people kept buying, and that's only intensified. Now we know that the price is tamped down. We know there's a price capping operation. Plus we can get silver bars, 1,000 ounces, for just 169 over spot, which is pretty exciting. David Stein, you look like you're like, whoa, silver bar, 169 over spot. What do you think about that?
I mean, that sounds like an incredible deal. Obviously, if you can, for those who can afford to buy that much, it's you know, when you run into smaller denomination silver products, in the high 30s or $40 an ounce, right? So this for investing in silver, that's a great opportunity.
Now, David, are you saying that because of the typical eventual blowback that comes when you tamp down the price and run a price fixing operation? Or does that pop to mind perhaps because the Lebanese central bank was stormed by protesters after the currency hit a new record low, and protesters storming the central bank offices? Or maybe you were saying that because after that was a little unusual, then only days later, France opens an investigation into Lebanon's central bank governor. The French have certainly been busy in the midst of this deep state global operation. First, they're selling gold to help out Central Africa, who actually changed some policy against France. And there's all these spying, this and that. Probably all just conspiracy theory. Or were you saying that because we're only days away from the June CPI report coming out and see if maybe we crack 6% this month? I'm sorry, I got carried away, but was it any of those reasons that leads you to believe that buying silver could be a good idea at this particular point in time?
All of them, but especially the Lebanon thing.
Okay. I mean, I could keep going with the list. I've been told I ask long questions from time to time. Yarra, do you have any feedback on that?
I wonder if those protesters got any gold bars. I don't imagine Lebanon has very many, but.
Well, I mean, if they did, it'd probably be more gold than is stored in the Fed. Although, Andy, in terms of silver bars, I think this would be. You have this fundraiser going, which is in the description. If you believe, was that last week only, of whether we should leave this in rapidly eroding U.S. fiat that at this point is pumped up simply by Janet Yellen raising interest rates, some terrorism using precious metals or whatever, unlike the cartels that put dollar cash in HSBC. But aside from that, I did ask people, would it make sense in the face of a hyperinflation campaign to put this money into silver? The answer seemed to be an overwhelming yes. So based on today's fraudulent COMEX price, which I still don't know of even having the damn thing is, perhaps we can get into a story about my attempts to get some silver out of the fraudulent COMEX, but looks like 26 half and a 26.50 price plus 169. Looks like we can afford a COMEX bar. Is that right?
Absolutely, you can. And a little more on top of it.
I don't know if I had the right. Well, that's pretty good news. So we got one on the table. And Andy, actually, I know we have someone on the team figuring out if it's possible to get delivery through the Interactive Brokers account, which promises delivery, but actually in the COMEX system, delivery just means delivery of your warrant, not the loadout procedure. Can you talk a little bit about that? Explain to people that you're familiar with.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting out a little bit there, but in terms of actually taking delivery of a COMEX contract, I mean, it's doable. You're going to get 5 1,000-ounce silver bars. I don't know the mechanism through Interactive Brokers. My guess is they're using the mini contract as well, so that they'll have the ability to deliver smaller amounts. But yeah, the biggest problem for most people in taking delivery is there's a cost involved, and you have to be able to route it and have it delivered. And one of the things that we are able to do, I guess, is that anyone that would want to take delivery, we might be able to assist them through one of our Brinks facilities in New York City, and whereby we could actually have the bars delivered to Brinks and assist in delivering those bars or storing them for people, which would really make things a whole lot easier if you're keeping them within the chain of custody, if that's what you intend to do, of a Brinks facility. If you intended to ever put them back onto the COMEX, they'd have to go through a bar master. They would have to be assayed. It's a pain in the butt. So for those people that want to attempt to take delivery of a COMEX contract, we could assist. I'm certain in housing those for you in your own segregated vault while never leaving the chain of custody of a COMEX approved warehouse, yet being safely held, insured in your own sub account within one of our Brinks facilities. So I think that would make life a lot easier for someone who is trying to take delivery rather than arranging to have it shipped and dealing with the challenges of receiving 5 1,000-ounce silver bars somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 pounds of silver at your door.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. And we will get back. And I know Andy will hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have some more updates because as you are aware, we've been discussing basically taking delivery and minting our own products. So look forward to having more details there. Although something that I think is important to cover on this very significant holiday is at least a little bit about the Silverfest event that is coming up. Some of you saw the video coverage yesterday, and I will pull that up in a second here. Andy, we're going for a very tropical feel here. I was in Minnesota for last year's Silverfest, but as you can see, been upgrading things a little bit. And here, this is a sample of one of the potential locations, a little bit more tropical than Minnesota.
I would say.
David, Yarra, Andy, do you have any thoughts about the look of that pool? Now, this isn't necessarily the exact spot, commitment to quality that I have here. I'm going to go in person, test out the pools, test out the buffets, you know, all the important stuff. It's a big sacrifice on my part, I'll admit, but who would like to take it first? And if you'd like to comment on the water slides, or if anyone would like to come to Splash Park with me tomorrow, which is nearby in the area. Yar, would you like to take first crack at this? You look like you have something to say.
I just can't wait to go on the water slides wherever Silverfest is. This place looks great. The first place you showed me looks great. I'm so excited for Silverfest in Mexico. Silverfest 2, sorry, in Mexico. I hope that you decided to put yoga on the schedule again if anybody wants to meet me out on the beach or the lawn early, but it all looks fantastic and I can't wait. I might need to come and do quality control on hotel locations with you, although I know Nibbles has the final say.
For you, that looked like it could be even a driving range. Maybe balls. I don't know if that's do that, hit golf balls into the ocean like that episode of Seinfeld, if that's not biologically, you know, but off range, yeah. Andy?
Chris, when you're screen sharing video, we can't hear you as well.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you, my brother. You kept going in and out. But if it had anything to do with golf, like I think I will be leading the golf brigade at Silverfest too. I would be more than happy to golf with anyone who wants to tee it up. We could have a little. We could play skins for silver coins, and I'm in. I'm a 9 handicap and getting lower, so let's do it.
I would like to ask that we find a place with a mini golf course or a par 3 because
unacceptable.
Played a full round before, but I love to.
That's fantastic, Chris. A lot better than Minneapolis, I'll tell you that much.
See.
Let me jump in, guys, and I will just say that the location looks amazing. Just the Puerto Vallarta in general. And I'm sure Chris will find a fantastic spot for the Silverfest 2, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to meeting people and just immersing myself in silver for a few days. That's really what it's all about for me. And yeah, I've actually got to run. It's getting kind of late here in my time zone, but I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with all you guys, and happy 4th of July, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you so much.
You will, Dave.
David.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. If you can hear me, sorry, you've been frozen.
Yeah, where's Cransler?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hopefully, clocking back in there. Are you guys able to hear me already at the moment?
Where's Bottle Rocket Cransler?
What's that, Andy?
I said, where's Bottle Rocket Cransler?
Still didn't quite catch that, but that is a swimming pool, as you can see there. That may not be the exact swimming pool that we'll be hosting Silver Jeopardy in. Dive in the pool is the kind of thing that will happen at Silverfest 2, if any of this is coming through. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have a fun event going there, October 26th through 31st. And Andy, you'll be here in person?
100%. 100%. The minute you give me the exact dates, I'm booking it.
The 26th through the 31st.
Just gotta
exact date,
know where to
October
book it.
26th
I'll be
through
there.
31st. Right?
I will
That's
be
it,
there.
baby.
I'm in.
All right.
Can't wait either.
Yarra, are you going to be giving away silver pillows in the pool?
I will bring some pillows to give away, although they're easier shipped from our center, but I'll bring a few. And I've got my Got Silver yoga pants, and I did just order a silver bikini, which got here yesterday, that I'm super excited about.
Nice. Me too.
Well,
We can be
that's
twinning,
obviously
Andy.
what's really important in the Halloween season.
Chris has already said he was going to wear the silver Speedo. He's promised me.
Oh,
That
no.
if you come, I'll wear the silver Speedo.
Oh gosh. Well, that's, everybody gets to be their silvery self. So.
He's going to play a concert in the silver Speedo and cowboy boots.
I missed that on the agenda.
Well, I mean, Andy, I know some people look forward to $50 silver. You want to see me in a silver Speedo. I mean, I guess it's a diverse marketplace with all sorts of different demands. But
Close
before
second.
we wrap up here tonight, any final parting words that you would like to leave with our audience on this 245th birthday of the United States, and maybe a particularly exciting one as the current overlords that are in charge, who maybe haven't been the best stewards, are being ushered out, excitingly enough, as we speak. So, Andy, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts above all else is we're close. We're getting closer than we ever have, and things are happening much more frequently, much more intense, and the big money is it's accumulating huge amounts of gold and silver, and we will be right, and logic will prevail, and economics and mathematics will prevail, and you got to stop asking when and just know that it will happen. And better to be prepared and be early than to be late and waiting for validation. If you're waiting for validation, you will be wrong. And I've watched the hard work you've done, Chris, because you believe this in your soul. I watched you start this from nothing and get to be one of the most well-known commentators in the space. I believe it to my soul, to my core, and I know a lot of people associated with you and on this show do as well. And I guess time will tell, but when you base your decisions upon economics and mathematics and sprinkle on some old school logic, you'll be right. The timing is the hard part. And I only feel bad that, there'll be some people that won't have the ability to hang on long enough. But if you look at gold and silver not as an investment, but as wealth and wealth accumulation, it becomes a whole hell of a lot easier. And don't look at your computer screen every day waiting for the price to go up. And when it doesn't, look at it as an opportunity to add a little more wealth to your portfolio, wealth that's been viewed that way for 5,000 years. And I think in times like this, we're a seminal event in history of this country. It's never been more important to own what I believe is the most undervalued asset and the buying opportunity of a generation. And you know what, Chris, so we all owe you a debt of gratitude also for hanging in there and, fighting the fight. You're a very public figure. You wear your emotions on your sleeve, and I, for one, thank you. And I think everyone who owns silver and listens to you and someday will really understand what you've given to all of us, this gift of knowledge and commitment. I'm proud to be part of it, and I think everyone should, go out and enjoy the evening. But remember that this is as good of an opportunity as I've ever seen to add real wealth to your portfolio in an environment where just about every other asset on the planet is at all-time highs, maybe even overvalued in relation to interest rates at all-time lows. And if interest rates rise, which ultimately they have to, everyone in mainstream land is going to really wish they'd listened to Chris Marcus a long time ago. So thanks for having me here, Chris. I really do appreciate it. And our friendship and our relationship and the work that you do is very admirable. So I appreciate being here.
Well, and can you give the email address one more time if anybody wants to get 1,000-ounce bar of silver for a $1.69 over spot price?
Yep, that would be Arcadia at Miles Franklin. We will offer free storage for up to 90 days for anyone who wants to store it in any of our facilities. And we'll make sure that things get delivered very, very promptly and at what looks to me to be the best price in the country.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. And Yarra, do you have any parting thoughts? Next month's silver price, wherever you'd like to comment. Wow, looks like quite a beautiful sunset in the background, matching my lighting keyboard colors almost. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up here?
I just think it's important to remember that we're all in this together, and the more good energy we focus, or positive energy, instead of getting demoralized by, tamping or this or that. And I know people have, Chris, your sense of humor about all of it, I think, has been really important, because it can be really hard when, you feel like something bigger than you is pushing down the thing that you want. And so I think just focusing our energy on how things will, are going and how they will be, and keep it from letting us get our energy sucked dry. And it doesn't have to be a sucker of joy, the fact that it hasn't gone up yet. It can be an opportunity to buy 1,000-ounce bars, or even just to hold what you have. And I just feel so honored to be a part of this community that's grown so fast and has such great energy and ideas. And I'm honored and grateful to be a part of it. And Chris, I think your take on everything that could feel, extremely like we're getting stepped on, and instead you bring a lot of energy to how we can do it different or make a difference, is something that I've always really appreciated about you. And Andy, I really appreciate your insight. And since you've been here for so long, you can give us all the history. I'm honored and grateful to be here with you guys. And thank you to all of the silver community, especially, who hang out in the land of Arcadia. And it's fun to get to spend a day that's, based off of freedom, doing something that I think is very pivotal, key part of keeping and restoring that freedom.
Right on. Well, very well said. I guess I'll say one last thing. And for those of you who don't know Chris the way I do or don't know me, I'll tell you, you've never met two people who believe more, and Yarra, in what we're talking about. I know every spare dollar Chris has, he puts into silver, and I've been buying gold and silver every 2 weeks for 31 years. And at least from a standpoint of sincerity in a world where people are full of shit, having relationships with people who are sincere and honest about what they're trying to do, and in large part to the detriment of their own sanity, you couldn't ask for people who believe more in the cause. So if the boat goes down, Chris, I, and Yarra will be driving. We'll be Julie McCoy and Gopher and Doc, and for all of you older people who remember the Love Boat. Anyways, thanks again, you guys. It's always good to be here, and I love dropping in whenever you have one of these. Please count me in. But where's Kranzler and Keynes?
What's that?
Where's Kranzler and Keynes?
Well, even great men. I mean, they were probably charming, they're sweethearts and so forth, as those brilliant silver analysts have to do from time to time. But anyway, I appreciate you guys both being here. Appreciate everyone at home who is watching and makes this channel possible. And I don't know, I like to think we're having an impact in the world. I mean, more people are buying silver, the sooner it ends. And I think it's very close myself. We'll see how long that takes. But with that said, happy 4th of July to everyone. Hope you're all safe and doing well out there. And I'll look forward to checking back in with you later this week for some more silver coverage.
God bless.